Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 11 of the NFL season for some Monday Night Football as the Eagles take on the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of Super Bowl 57. Sam, it has been a long time since we've talked. Coming off the bye week, it's been a long bye. This is like a two-week bye, really, because they had Sunday off, and here we are in week 11 on Monday Night Football. Sam, how are we?
Feeling great. Like you said, it's been a long time since the Eagles played football. It feels like it's been more than these 15 days. I feel like I had to dust off my Eagles gear. It almost feels like week one of the season, but we're back finally, and we're back in a big way with a big game tonight on Monday Night Football.
That's for sure, and there's a lot of storylines going around tonight with the Super Bowl rematch. A little Andy Reid action, some Travis Kelce, a little bit of brother on brother. But let's talk about what people are mostly talking about, the Super Bowl rematch and a revenge game for the Eagles. Is this a revenge game for the Eagles, or should we completely wipe out that storyline and just focus on what has to be done tonight?
So I wouldn't exactly call it a revenge game. I don't think it's a revenge game just because the circumstances and the magnitude of the game aren't exactly what you would want. I think if it's going to be a revenge game, it needs to be in the Super Bowl, because while this is a really very important game for the Eagles in terms of seeding for the playoffs and just kind of stacking up where they are against the rest of the NFL and the NFL's best, I think for it to be a true revenge game, it needs to come in the Super Bowl. But I know the Eagles themselves are going to be trying to get a little bit of that revenge back today. But in terms of a revenge game from a fan standpoint, I want that to come in the Super Bowl for a true revenge game. But I do think that the Eagles players are going to be up a little bit more than normally for this game, as we've heard a few of them talk. We've seen some signs of that over the summer, that they were waiting for this game, and they should, as they get another crack at the defending champs tonight.
Yep, a game that has been circled on everybody's calendars around the NFL. Maybe the best primetime game there is this season, Eagles-Chiefs. So let's get into the quarterback matchup, which also is a huge storyline tonight. It's Patrick Mahomes and Jaylen Herz. We're going to start with Jaylen Herz, who is currently the second as the favorite, the second for MVP on the MVP odds. Is Hertz in 2023. Coming off the bye, he is 8-1 as with the Eagles, a 2,347 passing yards, 68.9% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and 97 passer rating. And on the rushing yards, 295 rushing yards, six rushing touchdowns. We haven't seen Hertz run the ball as much, but after the bye, he said his leg was feeling better. He's out of the brace this week. It's going to definitely help, and he might be running some more today. Let's go back to the Super Bowl where the Eagles and Chiefs faced off. At the second quarter, Jaylen Herz fumbles the ball. Probably his worst fumble of all of last season, his worst play, coming in the worst time. Chiefs return that back for the touchdown. That changes the momentum of the game going into halftime. Chiefs end up winning that game. They end up coming back. That is the spark of that comeback. We see Jaylen Herz in the offseason with the picture of him walking off the field with the ketchup and mustard confetti behind him, walking off after losing the Super Bowl. We saw that as his wallpaper. We've seen the picture so many times. I used it in your article for your preview today, Sam. So Jaylen Herz have a chip on his shoulder in this game, and if he does or if he doesn't, what should we still expect from Hertz today with his first game without the brace on his knee?
I think he definitely has a huge chip on his shoulder. I think the first thing that he has a chip on his shoulder is that Patrick Mahomes got the MVP over him last season and is the favorite to get the MVP again this year. Hertz has led the Eagles so far this season to the best record in the NFL, yet he is still second behind Patrick Mahomes in the MVP ratings, or rankings, I should say. It seems that no matter what Jaylen does, few people out there are going to really give him the total credit because of the team he has around him, even though he has been playing as one of the two best quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 2 years, which I know we'll talk about later. So I think that just going up against Patrick Mahomes and kind of cementing himself in everyone's mind of that he is on the same level, at least at least close enough to the same level as Patrick Mahomes is definitely a chip that he's going to try to use for this game tonight. But like you said earlier about the fumble, I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough because of how well Jaylen played otherwise in that game. But the fumble was, in my opinion, the biggest reason they lost that Super Bowl. If he doesn't fumble there, if he doesn't give the Chiefs free 7 points right there, the Eagles will most likely win that game going into halftime with a 17-point lead instead of a 10-point lead. That's pretty insurmountable to come back from, especially since the Chiefs only won by 3 points. You play out the game anyway after that, and obviously anything can happen, but that was the biggest turning point in the game. I think that Jaylen he took a lot of responsibility with that after the game. I know in the locker room he talked about to his players about he felt like he lost them that Super Bowl. Obviously, there's a lot of things that went into it, but like I said, I feel like that was the biggest turning point. So I think he's going to be out to kind of avenge that fumble today. Obviously, it doesn't mean as much as going out and doing it in the Super Bowl, but he feels that he let his team down against the Chiefs the last time they played, and I think he's going to be out looking for a little bit of revenge, like we said earlier today. And then from a standpoint of how Jaylen's going to play today, what should we expect from Jaylen today? These are the type of games where if you want to be in that MVP conversation, if you want to be talked about as an elite quarterback, obviously he's paid like he is an elite quarterback, and we all believe he is one. But if you want everyone out there in the nation to believe that you are an elite quarterback, if you want to be the MVP favorite after tonight, and if you really want to cement yourself as an MVP type quarterback every single year, these are the type of games that you come out and you put on good performances. Obviously, he's not going to be able to control what the defense does tonight. The defense lets up 40 points, and that's not on him. But he has to come out and he has to play his game tonight. He has to be a star tonight. And I do expect that from Jaylen. We've seen him rise to moments in the past over the last couple of years, and even back in college, except for that one game when he got benched, he really rose to moments. And I think he's going to rise tonight. And like you said, he's going to have that knee brace off, which will be huge. Get a little bit of a rest on that knee. Maybe he'll be able to be a little bit more elusive, a little bit more impactful in the running game, which will help with the weather tonight. So I think we should expect Jaylen to have a big game, and I do think he's going to deliver a big game.
That's for sure. Let's look at the other side on the quarterback competition tonight. Patrick Mahomes, the MVP favorite so far through 10 weeks of the NFL season. His Chiefs are 7-2. He has 2,442 passing yards so far this season. A completion percentage of 68.6, 17 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, passer rating of 96.7, 258 rushing yards with no rushing touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes is undefeated versus the Eagles in his career and is also 30-1 in his last 31 games in November and December. Mahomes has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Is it going to be limited all tonight? It's going to be raining a little bit tonight. Eagles' defensive line is one of the best in the NFL. If they can get pressure on him, maybe they can do some damage. What should we see from Mahomes tonight against the Eagles?
Well, Patrick Mahomes has just kind of reached this status in the NFL where no matter how he plays every season, he's going to be thought of as the best quarterback in the NFL. Even though he has struggled so far this season a little bit comparative to how he's played in years past, and the Chiefs have mainly been winning because of their defense this season, and in their losses, a lot of it, or both their losses has been because the offense did not show up, and Patrick Mahomes has been turning the ball over at a rate that he has not in years past. But even with all that, he's still the favorite to be the MVP because his name is Patrick Mahomes. But with that said, you can never take him lightly, even with a down year. It, by his standard, is better than most quarterbacks' best years of their career. So he's going to be out there slinging it around tonight, even through the rain. One of the biggest things with Mahomes, and I think one of the biggest reasons that he is undefeated so far against the Eagles and just has such a great record, is that he neutralizes pass rush just by himself. He's not the most elusive quarterback. He's not going to run for 100-plus yard games on you like a Jaylen Herz has the capability of, or a Justin Fields has the capability of if they need to. But he does just enough to be able to get out of the pocket and extend plays. We saw it in the Super Bowl. Even on the bad leg, he was able to extend plays, pick up first downs on 4th and 3rd down with his legs, or extend it out to find an open receiver. He's one of the best in the league at that, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons that he's been able to have success against a great Eagles pass rush so far in his career, and he is great at getting the ball out quick. He's not afraid to take his little yardages, have his little comeback routes with Travis Kelce. Back when it was Tyreek Hill, hit Tyreek Hill for those slants. And obviously their wide receiver core is not as good as it has been in the past. Travis Kelce's still there, and he still has some guys that he's able to rely on a little bit. So he's definitely going to be trying to get the ball out quick tonight to neutralize the Eagles' pass rush as quick as he can, or the best he can.
Yeah, but I found this on Twitter or X, whatever, earlier today, and it's a little bit of a comparison between Hertz and Mahomes since the start of 2022. Both eerily similar. Let's see if I can pull it up here. This should work. Hold on. Timeout. While we're on this timeout, I want to thank SeatGeek for sponsoring this live stream. As always, there you go. So here is a comparison between Jaylen Herz and Patrick Mahomes. Very well done. I think this is Elliott Shore Parks. Very tech-savvy short ESP with the font and everything. But since the start of 2022, Hertz has 7,124 total yards. Mahomes, 8,308. Total touchdowns, 57 to 62. Interceptions, 14 to 20. Win-loss record, 22-2 and 21-5. I found this interesting.
Yeah, I think, the win-loss record can be a little bit deceiving just because the Kansas City Chiefs play a first-place schedule every year, so they're going to have a few more losses. But I think one of the biggest things is we've seen Jaylen really struggle with turnovers so far this season, and it's been a big thing that people, including myself, have talked about because they are going to come back to bite you. But Mahomes has a lot more turnovers. He obviously has more total yards and touchdowns, and he has definitely been the best quarterback in the NFL since really he became a starter in the NFL. But Jaylen is right there behind him, I think, currently, especially with some of the injuries to some of the quarterbacks right now and the way that some of the guys are playing, that Jaylen is the second best quarterback in the NFL. But Jaylen has an opportunity to hopefully take over first place in the MVP race tonight with a big performance. But when you put their stats up to next to each other, it's pretty crazy how close they are.
Yeah, maybe you can trump Mahomes tonight with that number one MVP rank. Here's something that concerned me. I'm going to ask if it concerns you. The Eagles are ranked as the worst team against tight ends in the NFL. Nicholas Morrow, he's not great at covering guys, great at making tackles, but covering guys, he had issues. And the Eagles face the best tight end in football, maybe the best tight end to ever touch a football field tonight, Travis Kelce. Brother of Jason Kelce, but not the sexiest man alive. And also, Andy Reid is 21-3 coming off the bye and is undefeated versus the Eagles. Does this concern you at all, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Travis Kelce is the scariest player outside of Patrick Mahomes on this Chiefs offense. He was able to kind of slice and dice us last year in the Super Bowl. We saw Jake Ferguson do whatever he wanted last game for the Cowboys, and that's obviously a tight end who is not very great. The Eagles, they don't really put a lot of stock in the defense up the middle of the field and the linebackers and safeties, and that's where it comes back to bite them when they play against good tight ends. We saw that Sean Desai kind of let CeeDee Lamb do whatever he wanted against us a couple weeks ago, which I thought was interesting. Normally you would see if they have one guy on offense that's going to kill you to try to double him a little bit. So I don't really know what their plan for Travis Kelce is going to be tonight. Kevin Byard, newly acquired safety from Tennessee, has played against Kelce before. He's covered Kelce before in playoff games and obviously a bunch of regular season games as they were both AFC teams. So they've played against each other a lot. So he does have a lot of experience doing it, but that would leave the back end of the defense open. So they'd have to probably put Sidney Brown back there, which we all know they don't really trust him back there too much. So it's going to be interesting to see how they cover him. In the Super Bowl, they kind of mix and match, use Bradbury a little bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do that with their wide receivers not exactly being the best on the outside. But it'll just be interesting to see what they do. No matter what, most likely Kelce's going to be able to get his yards. But this year he has been slowed down a lot, and when he's been slowed down, the Chiefs have lost both those games. Both the games the Chiefs lost, Kelce has recorded under 60 receiving yards, including the one against the Broncos where he had just 14. So obviously, hopefully Sean Desai looked at that tape and can kind of take some stuff that the Broncos did to try to slow Kelce down. But even without Taylor Swift in the audience, we all know he's going to try to put on a big show tonight against his brother, and that's definitely the biggest key for this game, I think, to try to slow down Kelce. And then the coming off the bye thing with Andy Reid, like you said, I think it's just a little bit of a coincidence, just because how often I heard on WIP they brought up this point today, and I thought it was a good one that I hadn't thought about. That how often have they played against the team in the NFL with the best record who also is coming off a bye on a bye week? That's obviously something that's not going to happen a lot. And just with the way the NFL schedule works, you can get a lot of stinkers. But even so, 21-3 is an amazing record coming off a bye. Andy Reid obviously is a future Hall of Fame coach who's able to put together great game plans. And when you give him an extra week to prepare, it's extremely tough to beat him. But Nick Sirianni has also done a great job off the bye. He's 2-0 so far. Obviously, last year we lost the Super Bowl coming off a bye, but they beat the Giants handily in the playoffs off a bye. So, any game you're going up against Andy Reid's going to be extremely hard. But when he gets an extra week to prepare, there's definitely going to be some new wrinkles that the Eagles aren't prepared for.
That's for sure. You mentioned Taylor Swift not being in attendance tonight. Her concert got delayed 24 hours out in wherever it is, Europe somewhere. I'm not exactly sure. Brazil. Okay. So here's my question. If she was in attendance, there's a big debate of what she would be wearing. Chief stuff, Eagle stuff, a mix, nothing. Or not, but I mean nothing, like neutral. What do you think she would have worn? And if she wasn't wearing Eagle stuff, I don't know what your opinion is on Taylor Swift, but does that make you anti-Swiftie?
So I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. Me and my sisters went and stood outside of the link while she was at the link, and we hung out outside, so it was a great time. But I think you mentioned Elliott Shore-Parks earlier. He had the best idea I've heard, that she should wear a Jason Kelce jersey, kind of represent both. But honestly, I think she just would have went neutral. She's stated multiple times that she grew up an Eagles fan. She's a big Eagles fan. Even at her concerts in Philly, she put to bed some rumors about some Eagles references in her songs and said that they were about the Philadelphia Eagles. So I don't think but then she also has to play to the Kansas City fans too, because she could potentially be, a lifelong Kansas City person if all things work out well. So I think the best move for her probably would have been neutral, and knowing how well she does everything with PR, she definitely would have just went neutral and not be shown on the camera unless Travis does something well cheering. But she definitely would have just went neutral.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of green, a little bit of like a darker green, harder to pick up. I don't know. I don't really care. I'm not, I'm not the huge Taylor Swift, but I think you're from Reading. You're an Eagles fan. You gotta represent. Like, if you're a real Eagles fan, you're gonna rep the green no matter who you're with or what the situation is. But she's a multi-superstar millionaire, and I'm sitting in a chair talking about the Eagles.
I mean, she was seen in the Eagles sweatshirt while they were dating. So, I mean, she still has that Eagles connection, but you never know. I'm honestly, like I said, I like Taylor Swift, but I'm very glad that she's not, obviously horrible circumstances down in Brazil why she had to postpone her concert, but I'm glad that they're not going to be showing her on the screen every 5 minutes and talking about exactly what we're talking about right now the whole entire game.
Yeah, it's Joe Buck, so that guy talking about him and Troy Aikman talking about Taylor Swift the whole time is just not a situation you want to be put in. So anyway, back to football. The Chiefs offense, obviously one of the best offenses in the NFL. What should we expect from them tonight in the rain?
So I think they're going to try to test this Eagles secondary. Like I talked about earlier, the Chiefs' weapons on the outside are not exactly the same old weapons that we're used to the Kansas City Chiefs having. When you pay your quarterback and you pay your tight end and your defensive tackle and all these guys, sometimes you got to try to fight to get some cheaper contracts in the areas, and the Chiefs have just decided to do that on wide receiver. But one thing they all have in common is they have speed, and the Eagles pass defense ranks 28th in the league this year. So I do think even though they're not the greatest, Patrick Mahomes has an absolute cannon attached to his body. So I think they're going to try to use that a little bit, take shots when they can. But besides that, they're going to try to dominate that middle of the field. They know where the weakness of the Eagles defense is. It's right up the middle. And they're going to try to dominate that with Kelce, and then they're going to sprinkle in the run game. We saw that in the Super Bowl that they were able to run really well against us. Some people will blame the slippery field for that. Don't want to bring back bad memories, but the Chiefs were able to run on the Eagles, so they're definitely going to try to mix that in. But I think also, like you said, the rain, that was kind of unexpected. At least I didn't really know about that, and I know a lot of fans didn't know that it was going to be raining tonight. So that will obviously affect their game plan as well. But the Chiefs are going to try to air it out whenever they play, and I don't think that's going to be any different against this poor Eagles secondary.
Yeah, and the rain, it's always going to have some sort of something. Maybe a little flashback. It'll be a little slippy field like it was last year in Arizona.
At least they said now it's supposed to clear out by 9 o'clock. So first quarter will be a little wet, but by the second half, which should be back to normal football.
It's a cold, windy rain that's going on up there. They said the wind will die down by game time, which is about 20 minutes away. So hopefully.
Well, you know what Jaylen Herz says: rain, sleet, or snow, the Eagles train to go.
He does say that. Surprised I haven't seen any T-shirts with that on.
I know, right?
So some position advantages tonight, Sam. I know it might not be on your list, but I want to hear who you have at the quarterback advantage tonight, along with your position advantages.
You say quarterback?
Quarterback, like the guys that throw the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to do it, but Patrick Mahomes has the advantage tonight at quarterback. He's done it more. He's been the MVP. He's won Super Bowls, and until we see Jaylen, it's not Jaylen's fault that he hasn't had a chance to play in a lot of these big games like this. It's just how the schedule has been made. But Patrick Mahomes has done it. We've seen him do it. So obviously, it sucks for Jaylen that he hasn't been able to prove himself in these type of games, but that's what this year's for. We got a lot of tough ones coming up, but I'm going to give Patrick Mahomes the advantage of quarterback tonight. And then for some position advantages, I'm going to go the Eagles defensive line versus the Chiefs offensive line on a slight advantage. The Chiefs offensive line is very, very good. One of the things that was kind of pointed out last year was how the Eagles defensive line in the Super Bowl had 0 sacks. The Chiefs offensive linemen were wearing T-shirts at the parade that said 0 sacks on them, on the shirts. So I think the Eagles defensive line is definitely going to take that a little bit personally tonight. Eagles defensive line is deeper, not going to be playing on a slip and slide of a field. And I think the Eagles defensive line this year is a little bit deeper than it was last year. So I think they're going to have a slight advantage on that. Obviously, and then I also have the Eagles O-line versus the Chiefs D-line in the running game. Chiefs passing defense is very, very, very good, but the one way that the Chiefs defense can be exploited a little bit is going to be the running game. And with Cam Jurgens returning to that guard spot tonight, I think that's going to help fix the running game. The Eagles have not done a great job of running the ball ever since he got injured. With Sua Opeta in there, he was kind of a black hole in that offensive line. But now that all the 5 starters will be back together, I think the Eagles are going to be able to push a little bit on the ground and hopefully get Swifty running a little bit.
Yeah, I just saw a video of Jason Kelce and DeAndre Swift walking out of the tunnel together, which is an incredible troll. Swift and Kelce walking out of the tunnel together at Arrowhead. That's good stuff. Some notable matchups tonight. It's Monday night. What's that guy's name that does the Monday Night Football bit? What's his name? I don't know his name.
Chris Berman.
It's good. Every Monday Night Football. Let's hear it.
All right, so some notable matchups I have for this game is going to be Jason Kelce versus Chris Jones. A lot of people have compared Jalen Carter to be the next Chris Jones, but that's extremely high praise, as Chris Jones is probably a future Hall of Fame defensive tackle, and Jason Kelce and those guards are going to have their absolute hands full tonight. Jones last year was up at the top of sacks in the NFL, which is extremely impressive from a defensive tackle. A lot of times defensive tackles are better at stopping the run, but Chris Jones is as elite of a pass rusher as there is in the NFL. Jason Kelce, obviously also a future Hall of Famer, so it's going to be an exciting matchup tonight to watch between them. And then we have on the other side of the ball, Travis Kelce versus Kevin Byard, James Bradbury, or whoever else the Eagles decide to put on him. Like I said earlier, I think that one of the biggest keys to tonight's game is going to be if the Eagles can slow down Travis Kelce, and that's going to have to be a mix of people tonight. So that's another huge matchup. And then A.J. Brown versus Trent McDuffie / Ladarius Sneed. We haven't really talked about it much, but the Chiefs' defense is rated 4th in the NFL, mostly because of their pass defense. Their pass defense gives up just about 180 yards per game, which is obviously extremely good. So it's going to be interesting to see who they put on A.J. Brown tonight, if they have either McDuffie or Sneed travel, if they just leave them on one side and trust each of them to go up against Devontae and A.J. But A.J. Brown, if the Eagles are going to win this game tonight, I think needs to have a big game. And if A.J. is having a big game, that means a lot of things are going right for the Eagles.
That's for sure. And also a lot that's going right is what you can save on SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the sponsor of this live stream. They've been the sponsor all season. So thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring. SeatGeek, of course, is a ticketing app that makes it so easy to buy your tickets. All you got to do, download the SeatGeek app and use code Philly Sports Report to save $20 off your first SeatGeek order. It's so easy to do, and they're great. So make sure when it's Christmas season, the holiday season is here. So when you're buying tickets for the family for the holidays, Eagles play on Christmas Day, use code Philly Sports Report, $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Sam Hyde, SeatGeek standout stars. Our standout stars have been doing very well since October up until game 6 and 7 of the NLCS. But other than that, they have been very, very good. So let's keep that rolling. Who are your SeatGeek standout stars tonight?
All right, I'm going to start off with the obvious one. I haven't really pulled this one out yet, but I talked about it earlier. I think that if Jaylen Herz wants to cement himself as an elite quarterback in this league in multiple people's eyes, a lot of people around the country, and if he wants to really take hold of that MVP trophy for this season, I think he's going to have a big game tonight, and I think he wants to kind of get a little bit of revenge from that Super Bowl loss and kind of avenge that fumble that he had. My first standout star for the game tonight is going to be Jaylen Herz. And then my second one, I'm going to go Haason Reddick. I feel like I talk about him every week. I love him as a player. I love what he brings, his energy on the field, and he is the closer. And I think that Haason Reddick is going to have a big moment sack tonight. I think that, like I said, one of the big reasons the Eagles lost the Super Bowl last year was because the Eagles' defensive line was not able to get home. I think one of the reasons the Eagles are going to win this game tonight is because that defensive line is going to be able to get home against Patrick Mahomes. And we've seen it every week, just about every week. Haason Reddick, the closer, comes up in the fourth quarter. He wears down offensive linemen, and he's able to put his foot in the ground and then put the quarterback into the ground. And I think Reddick is going to make a big stop to kind of seal the game tonight with the sack of Mahomes.
Seems to happen every game. We hope to see it again tonight. Let's look at the inactives tonight for both teams. For the Eagles, Tanner McKee, quarterback, is inactive. Rashad Penny is inactive once again. Moro Ojomo, great name. He is inactive. Sua Opeta is inactive. Dallas Goedert is inactive. And Derek Barnett is a healthy scratch tonight for personal reasons. Hope everything's okay with him. I think it's mostly because he hasn't been getting snaps, but there could be something wrong. So hope everything's okay with Barnett. Goddard obviously inactive, but this does mean that what's his face? Cam Jurgens is back tonight on the offensive line, which is a huge gain back for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Sua Opeta is inactive because if they had any doubt about Cam Jurgens' health, of if he can stay healthy throughout the whole game, they would have had Sua Opeta active for today's game. So I think that's a good sign about how healthy Jurgens is. Obviously, Dallas Goedert getting a broken arm against the Cowboys kind of sucks, but it is notable that they have not put him on IR, which means that they think that he'll be back in 4 weeks because IR is 4 games, not 4 weeks. So he's already a week into his injury, I guess 2 weeks into his injury now. So there's been people reporting that he could potentially be back for the 49ers game. So him only missing potentially 2 games would be massive. And then I think one of the things, like you said, Derek Barnett, hopefully everything's okay with him. But last time we saw him out for a game, we saw Nolan Smith get his snaps, and Nolan Smith made an impact. Derek Barnett, unfortunately just has not made an impact so far this season, and Nolan Smith has in the limited snaps he's been able to get. And then when he got more snaps, he got a sack against Miami in that Kelly Green game. So I hope that Nolan Smith will be able to take advantage of his snaps, extended snaps tonight. Maybe not a sack, but at least disrupt the game a little bit.
Yep, let's move on to the Gambler R Us bets. Gamblers R Us, the official gambling podcast of Philly Sports Reports, ran by Guss and Scott Barber. So make sure to go listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. You can go tune in on the Philly Sports Reports podcast. The line is the Eagles underdogs tonight. Jaylen Herz is 1-7 as an underdog in his career. With the one win maybe coming. I don't remember who it was against. But the Chiefs are favored by -2.5 points. Will they cover that spread tonight?
Yeah, obviously we've talked about how sports betting is illegal in Florida, but last week it was legalized. So I have a lot of bets on the slate today because this is the first week that I can place a little bit of a dollar on each bet on football. So firstly, -2.5 for the Eagles, or +2.5 for the Eagles. That means that they think that the Eagles and the Chiefs are equal if they were to be playing on a neutral location. The Chiefs get 2.5 to 3 points for being home, so that means that Vegas thinks the Eagles are either equal or half a point better than the Chiefs. And I do like the Eagles to cover that today. I do like the Eagles on the money line as well today. And then I like over 45.5. I don't think that this is going to be an extremely crazy high scoring game because the Chiefs defense is very good and the Chiefs offense has struggled a little bit this season. But I do like the over barely in this game. Some bets I like for this game. I have A.J. Brown over 6.5 catches. I don't know if he's going to go over 100 yards, but I do think that they're going to try to give A.J. the ball a lot, kind of get him involved early with maybe a couple slants just to get him involved a little bit, give him a little space off of the Chiefs' great cornerbacks. I like Jaylen Herz anytime touchdown. I mean, talk in the NFL just about every time it happens, the tush push. I feel like if you're not betting on it every week, then you're just kind of, it's free money just about every week. You'd be up a lot of money if you put a lot of money on Jaylen Herz anytime touchdown every week. Patrick Mahomes over half an interception. I do think that the Eagles defense has not created a bunch of turnovers recently, but one of the things that Patrick Mahomes has been doing this season is turning the ball over a lot, and in their losses, he has turned the ball over a lot. He had a 3-interception game against the Broncos, so I do believe the Eagles are going to win this game, so I do think that comes with a turnover. And then talked about it before in the SeatGeek standout star, but Hassan Reddick for over half a sack. I think he's going to make a big play in this game, have a sack, maybe a sack and a half. He's been on fire. He's had a sack in every single game since getting his cast off, at least one. So keep riding it while it's hot.
Yep, and we have a special feature from a Gamblers R Us host. Guss Barber has his locks tonight. I hope you can hear this. I hope this works. This browser can't access your screen. All right, let's test this out really quick. Let's see what's going to happen here. Hold on. Stay with me. Hold on. Stay with me. Trust the process here. Trust the process. All right, all right, let's see if this is going to work. Here we go. Did not come up? What's going on here? All right, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'll try and figure it out next week. But thank you, Guss, for setting that in. Fortunately, it's not going to happen this week. Hopefully, it'll happen again next week. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, let's move on to our keys of the game tonight. Sam, what are your keys for tonight on Monday Night Football?
This is the most obvious key. It's a key for just about any game, but I feel like with this Eagles team, the way they've been turning the ball over this season, it's got to be pointed out. The Eagles need to win the turnover battle tonight. It's going to be a slippery field. It's going to be a wet ball. The Eagles have turned the ball over a ton this season, even if it's not Jaylen who has turned the ball over a ton. The running backs have fumbled the ball. There's been some fluky ones bouncing off of players. The Eagles need to win the turnover battle if they're going to come into Kansas City and steal a game out there. Talked about it so much because he is their best player outside of Mahomes, but you have to contain Travis Kelce. The Eagles need to throw the kitchen sink at him, do whatever they want, do whatever they can to be able to slow him down. Like I talked about earlier, in the 2 games that they lost, Travis Kelce was contained under 60 yards. In some games when he just absolutely goes off there's been games this season where he's gone off for 170. They've blown out teams. Obviously, we can't have that happen, but even when he goes for 100 plus, the Chiefs most likely are winning that game. And then I think hitting Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes does have a tendency to turn the ball over, and he does have a tendency to kind of throw the ball to make some bad throws and bad decisions. So I think the Eagles need to get home to Patrick Mahomes. They were not able to do it in the Super Bowl famously, like we talked about as well, but they need to be able to do it tonight if they're going to win this game.
I think I got Gus's video to work. It looks like it's loading in our system right now. But for now, let's talk about how much of a test this is going to be for the Eagles. This might be the Eagles' biggest test so far of 2023. Do you agree with that statement? And if so, how will this game affect the next few coming up as we have reached the gauntlet and the tough part of the season?
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest test of the Eagles season. It might be the biggest regular season test the Eagles have had in years, honestly. I mean, it's funny because against the Miami Dolphins, we said it was the biggest test of the season, and the Eagles dominated them. Against the Dallas Cowboys, we said it was the biggest test of the season, and while it got hairy late, the Eagles beat them. But, I mean, by far, the Kansas City Chiefs are the class of the NFL. They're the top team in the NFL every single year. They are the measuring stick for most teams. If you go out and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, that's how you know that you are right there with them and you're in their class. And they've established that by being dominant over the past few years and winning Super Bowls. So I do think that this is a huge test for the Eagles, especially because it's an away game. If this game was home, a lot of people would definitely feel a lot better, but Arrowhead is not exactly the easiest place to play. A lot of teams go there and fail to come home with W's, but this is by far the biggest test the Eagles are going to have, and it'll be a good idea. I don't think if the Eagles lose this game, I mean, if they get blown out, then obviously there's some reevaluating to do. But if the Eagles lose a close game against the Kansas City Chiefs, there's nothing, it's not too bad. But like you said, we do have a gauntlet of a schedule coming up, so it would be big to get this win to kind of kick that off. But it'll be interesting to see how they play, and I think they're going to match the energy tonight.
All right, so I got Gus's video to work. Kickoff is in a few minutes. This is about a minute video, so when we come back from this, we're going to review his picks tonight, and then we're going to finish out this show. So here's Guss Barber, host of the Gamblers R Us podcast.
What's going on, guys? Guss, the Bus Barber of Gamblers R Us here, talking about my Monday Night Football bets that I like tonight between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, going to be an absolute fantastic game tonight. Obviously, I'm going with the Eagles. So give me the Eagles with the spread plus 2.5. Going to sprinkle on some same game parlay action. So give me DeAndre Swift over rushing yards. I think it's 59.5 right now. Chiefs, one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. So give me DeAndre Swift over rushing yards, and also give me DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown. We're going to be talking about Swift tonight, but not that Swift. We're talking about DeAndre Swift. And the Chiefs are going to score, so I'm going to go big money here to really boost the odds. Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs going to score a touchdown for the Chiefs. Lock it in. Those are Guss the Bus's bets for Monday Night Football.
So there you have it. Gus's picks tonight. Sam, any comments for that you can legally bet now?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I like the rushing, like we talked about earlier. The Chiefs' pass defense is elite, top of the league, but their rushing defense is where you can exploit them. And with Cam Jurgens coming back for this game, the Eagles should be able to get back to that groove they kind of had in the beginning of the season, running the ball behind that offensive line now that it's fully complete. And hopefully DeAndre Swift has a big game today, because one of the reasons one of the biggest things in the Super Bowl too was that the Eagles were not able to run the ball in that game. Miles Sanders fumbled early and kind of got spooked. Kenny Gainwell, we all know how he is. So the Eagles were kind of one-dimensional in that Super Bowl, and hopefully they won't be like that tonight.
That's for sure. Let's look at the Sam Hine FOCO Fit Check. Holiday season is coming up, it's great to get some gifts for your Philly sports fan at home. And the best way to get that is on FOCO. They got the overalls, they got the bracelets, they got everything you need. So go to FOCO, use that link right there to save 10% off your any order at FOCO. Sam, what are we rocking with today for some Monday Night Football?
Well, it's a pretty obvious jersey for tonight's game. The Kelce brothers on their podcast are calling it the family reunion game. So today we're going with the Super Bowl 52 green home Jason Kelce jersey. Feels like there's no other player you can rock in a game like this tonight against his brother. Obviously, we're hoping Jason comes out on top. And this is definitely it was an easy choice for me today. I'm excited for next week as we're back to the Kelly Greens. But for today, we're rocking the Jason Kelce, and we're hoping that our Kelce comes home with the W tonight.
That's for sure. I also am going Kelce on the newly acquired Kelly Green jersey. There's this dude near my house that sells jerseys outside his house for really cheap. Got this for $60. It's a very nice made jersey. The Kelly Green's a little dark, but it gets the job done. You can still tell it's the Kelly Greens. And thank you, FOCO, for sponsoring the Sam Hine Fit Check. Sam, we've gotten to our part of the show where we predict the game that's coming up. So we're going to start with you. What is your prediction for tonight's Eagles-Chiefs Monday Night Football rematch of Super Bowl 57?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a little skeptical. Maybe not skeptical, but a little bit less confident in the Eagles against Miami Dolphins and against the Dallas Cowboys. But I feel like this team just wins games. You know, they may not be as good as last year. They may not be playing as well as they did last year. Maybe they are as good as last year. They just haven't put together a full game so far this season. But for some reason tonight, I just have a really good feeling about them coming off the bye. I feel like I'm completely bought in on this team because all they do is win. I think the Eagles' offense is going to have a good game tonight against the top of the league in the Chiefs' defense. I think the Eagles get a late stop against the Chiefs, and I'm going Eagles 27, Chiefs 21.
That's for sure. The Eagles just won the toss in the third, so the Chiefs will be up first. For me, I don't really know what's going to happen. I've been thinking about it all week. And I don't know. I don't think I've ever on any show predicted that my team is going to lose, but I'm not going to do it today, but I'm also not going to guarantee a win. I mean, as long as they don't get blown out, I'm still feeling good, but I can't put a score on this one tonight. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I've never really been like that for a game, but that's how I am today. So we got to wrap up our show. Kickoff is coming any second. Thank you guys for watching. Eagles pregame show brought to you by SeatGeek. Use code Philly Sports at $20 off your first purchase. Check out phillysportsports.com after the game for Sam Hine's recap. Follow us on all of our social media. Stuff is in the bio or in the description. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week for the Kelly Green game against the Bills. Go Birds!
Go Birds!